Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Full Court Press MMA. I am your host, Drew Duncan. Do not forget that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at DrewDuncan83. Also, when you share our posts, use the hashtag Don't You Dare Touch That Dial. Additionally, you can find the Full Court Press MMA on all social media outlets as well. Folks, I am super excited to have our next guest on the program. She currently fights for Invicta. She has a 2-1 record. She fights at atomweight out of Queens, New York. She is the Lionheart, Jillian Decoursey. She's right here on the Full Court Press MMA. Jillian, thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes to speak with me today.
Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. So you and I were kind of talking a little bit about it before we went on air. You are from Queens, and I've got to know because my pastor is actually from New York. He's from Brooklyn, if I remember correctly. And I would love to hear some of the things that you hear about New Yorkers that are just simply not true.
I would say, I guess that like everybody's like nasty and just rude. I mean, some of us are, but that's just because everybody's in a rush everywhere. But there's a lot of nice people out here. We're not all mean and like, into trouble.
Can you kind of give us a day in the life for Jillian? Because, I interviewed a lady who was on this program. Her name is Teeny, and she's from New York, but she's from like one of the smaller towns getting closer into upstate New York. Obviously, the way of life up there is a little different than, the hustle and bustle of what you experience. What was it like overall growing up for you? Family, friends, all those kinds of things.
Growing up, I was nonstop. I would wake up in the morning, go to the park, play some basketball, then head out to school, be in school all day, and then, play more basketball at the end of the day, come home, do some homework, get out, play some more ball, and then back to school the next day. But what's different for us, like when you grow up in the city, is a lot of times you don't have like your parents or people kind of driving you to school and dropping you off. I would take like 2 or 3 buses and like 2 or 3 trains just to get to school, like to and from school every day. And that was like a normal, it was like a normal thing. Now, if you tell me to get on a train, I'm like, yeah, no, not happening. But growing up, that was just, what you do. And like, you don't really think of it. And then like I would talk to like my cousins and my friends that live, in the suburbs or, in other states. And they're like, oh yeah, my mom drives me to school. I'm like, yo, you're in high school. What are your parents driving you to school for? It's just, so I think we grow up a little bit quicker.
How come we're not talking about Jillian playing basketball in the WNBA? It sounds to me like you had a real affection for that sport.
Oh, I did. I played nonstop. I actually had a scholarship to play ball in college.
Where at?
I went to University of Bridgeport, and then I finished up at Hunter.
Now, I know that you studied mental health. Is that where you began to study mental health?
Yeah, I got my BA in psychology, and then when I went on to grad school, I finished off in mental health counseling just because there was a little bit more options to be able to do, private practice and things with my master's with a degree in mental health.
Talking to Jillian Decoursey right here on the Full Court Press MMA. I am your host, Drew Duncan. Jillian, I want to expand on that a little bit. I mean, what was the reason that you got into psychology and mental health? I'm
not really positive. My mom kind of tells me that ever since like I was a kid, I used to tell her I wanted to do something that I used to call like environmental psychology. And basically I used to describe to her that it was like I just wanted to help kids that had like issues based on like their environments. Like, they grew up in, not the best environments or, whatever kind of happened to them to cause them to have some like problems. And it pretty much like I stuck with that through, everything. And it just kind of happened. I was always intrigued by the mind and just, specifically with kids and adolescents and how, there's still, no matter what they can kind of go through, there's still so much hope and things that you can do if you know how to harness, the power of thinking and changing behavior to make changes, and you can really, change their life.
And how does harnessing that within yourself help you once you step into a cage?
Oh, because, I mean, for me, it pretty much boils down to, like, you got to practice what you preach. I mean, I can't sit here all day and, help people and, talk to them about how they have to overcome things and, how you got to think positively and then not do it myself.
Talking to Jillian Decoursey, the Lionheart, right here on the Full Court Press MMA. I am your host, Drew Duncan. I've been monitoring your social media lately. And one of the things that I've seen, and you and your manager have been very open about this, is the difficulty in getting a fight. It is the belief of your manager, Jason Adams, that your people are either running afraid or they're just looking at your last fight and going, oh, well, she lost and that's it. What do you boil it down to?
Oh, no, it's definitely not they're looking at the last fight and lost and that's it. Because then people will be taking fights. My perspective is like, you look, all right, I just lost. You should want to take that fight then, because obviously I could lose, right? But I think it's people are just being punks. I think they're being punks. People just aren't wanting to take fights. We've been actively looking like hardcore since December, and we haven't been able to get anything. And then we find cards that have a 105er that they're looking to match, and we're like, okay, we'll take the fight. And then as soon as my name gets sent over to the team, it's like, oh, no, we don't want that fight. And it's like, what do you mean you don't want that fight? Do you want to fight or you not want to fight? And, it's not making any sense. And I don't get it.
You've got one contracted fight left with Invicta. The longer this thing continues to go, do you become a little worried that maybe when you finally do get a fight that maybe you won't be as prepared, being that your last fight was in July of last year?
No, not at all, because I got a lot of pent-up aggression and stuff that needs to get let out. So, I mean, the longer it goes, the better I'm getting. The worse it's going to be for that next person that steps in the cage with me, honestly. So, if these girls want to fight, I recommend they do it now. It's better for them.
Jillian, I'm going to ask somewhat of a probing question here, but I think it's a fair one. And that is, why not move up to strawweight?
Yeah, I've actually spoken to my coaches about it. All of my coaches at both the gyms I train at, and they all have the same view of it. They're like, you're not a strawweight. You're too small to be a strawweight, and you know what? You're doing well at atomweight. There's plenty of atomweights out there. Why should you move your weight class and give somebody not a skill advantage, but just a simple size advantage? When it's not that there aren't people to fight out there, and there absolutely are. So, since they all had the same view on it, it's like, okay, hey, that's what we're going with.
And to kind of peel it back a little bit, I mean, obviously MMA has changed dramatically from where it was even 10 years ago. I mean, there's so many more weight classes as opposed to at one point there were no weight classes. There were really no rules other than, no shots to the back of the head. And I believe in the privates as well. I mean, those were really the only two rules in MMA. And we've seen it to where it is now. Do you think that eventually atom weight will be made available to people through Bellator, through UFC, etc.?
I think so, yeah. I mean, Bellator did just have, an atom weight match on one of their recent cards, and, so why wouldn't they do it again?
Jillian, as I do with all of my guests, I give them an opportunity to say whatever it is that's on their mind. There's no right or wrong answer here. The floor is 100% yours.
I just want to say that if anybody wants to fight, they should step up and fight. And, stop being punks. It doesn't really matter. Like, if you want to be a fighter, I think you should just take fights and let's go. Put on a show. I want to thank my coaches at Ring Sport Muay Thai and Long Island MMA, and my manager, Jason Adams, and, Wendy Driver with Seek Chick, for kind of, and, my massage therapist, Jasenia at JQLMT for always kind of fixing me every time I break myself, and all my other awesome sponsors.
Everybody, she is Jillian Decoursey, a.k.a. the Lionheart, and she was right here on the Full Court Press MMA. Jillian, thank you so much again for joining the program today.
And thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. All right, everybody. I am Drew Duncan, host of the Full Court Press MMA. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan 83. Additionally, you can find the Full Court Press MMA on social media as well. Don't forget to use the hashtag Don't You Dare Touch That Dial. And as always, don't you dare touch that dial.